Among all the beautiful, ambitious daughters of the powerful art kingdom of Ikwe, everyone firmly believed the crown prince would choose a woman of high birth and polished manners. The elegant ladies tried every trick, every costly garment, and every calculated word to capture his attention. Yet, the heart of Likan, Prince Likan, found love in a place entirely unexpected. He chose the silent orphan, Iyade, a girl suffering in hidden cruelty in a dusty corner of the village. Why did the prince see her when the entire kingdom overlooked her? What unique darkness did she carry, and what secret burden was she enduring that ultimately captivated the man destined to rule Ikwe? Sit back and find out as the path to the throne reveals a far deeper truth than politics. The ancient kingdom of Ikwe, a land blessed by the sun, where the air smells of moist earth and distant smoke, was draped in a thick, sorrowful silence. The magnificent royal palace, usually a hub of rhythmic drumming and vibrant color, was now dominated by the low, haunting beat of funeral rites. Their revered and wise king, Iyade, had passed away suddenly in his sleep, leaving the throne vacant and the hearts of his people heavy. The palace guards moved with slow, heavy steps, and the elders spoke in hushed, serious tones, all burdened by the same question: who would now steer the ship of Ikwe? The sleek, dark car of Likan finally rolled through the palace gates, breaking the silence with the crunch of gravel under its tires. Likan stepped out, his tailored suit a stark contrast to the traditional white mourning clothes worn by the palace staff. His face was reserved, carrying a deep grief for his father, but his eyes held something else, a deep-seated resistance. He had been living a simple, academic life abroad, a life of books, freedom, and anonymity. The heavy weight of the crown, the suffocating expectations, and the rigid politics of the palace were things he had deliberately avoided for years. Now, he was back, but his heart longed for the quiet life he had left behind. His first encounter was with his mother, Iyaba, the queen mother. She rushed to him, her voice thick with emotion as she held him tightly. "My son, my strength, you are here now," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. Later that evening, after the initial morning rites, Iyaba sat with Likan in the dimly lit private hall. The air was charged with unspoken expectations. "Likan," she began, her voice firm despite the sorrow, "you must announce your ascension immediately. The council is uneasy. They need stability, they need their king." Likan sighed, rubbing his forehead wearily. "Mother, please, you know how I feel about this. This life, this endless responsibility. It is not me. My father loved it, yes, but I crave simplicity. I do not want to be Oba." Iyaba shook her head slowly, her regal presence undiminished by grief. "This is not about what you want, my son. It is about what Ikwe needs. It is your blood right, your duty. If you refuse, there will be chaos. The vultures will circle, and your father's legacy will be threatened. You must be strong. You must assume the throne." Likan stood silent, his jaw clenched, feeling the immense pressure of centuries of tradition crushing his own dreams of freedom. Far from the gilded halls and heavy expectations of the palace, in a part of the Ikwe village known for its dried-out earth and simple, mud-walled houses, lived Iyade. She moved with a quiet, almost ghost-like efficiency. Her clothes were faded and patched, and her hands were rough from endless scrubbing and fetching. She was the orphan taken in by her uncle, Chief Ola, a respected but deeply calculating elder of the village. For Iyade, life was a continuous, silent servitude. "Iyade, the water pots are empty. And the yard has not been swept since morning." The sharp, high-pitched voice belonged to Iyaba, Chief Ola's wife. "Yes, Iyaba," Iyade murmured, keeping her head low as she swiftly grabbed the large water buckets. Her cousins, Neka and Ife, watched from the doorway, their expressions a mixture of boredom and petty malice. "Look at you," sneered Neka. "Born only to fetch and clean. You will never amount to anything more than dust." Ife giggled. "Hurry, you beggar. We cannot have the house looking dirty for the guests we expect soon." Iyade did not reply. She simply walked out, clutching the handles of the buckets. Her heart ached, but she had perfected a small, almost invisible smile that was her shield against the pain. She had learned to keep her spirit alive in silence, bearing a burden that no one in Ikwe knew about. Meanwhile, in the royal council hall, the decision was finalized. Likan, seeing the distress of his mother and the gravity of the chiefs, finally relented. "I will be Oba," he stated, his voice devoid of joy. "I will honor my father's legacy." A collective sigh of relief swept through the room. But then, the head chief raised his hand, his expression solemn. "Omo Oba Likan, there is one more sacred matter. Our tradition is clear, the throne of Ikwe is incomplete without its Iyaba, queen. You must select a wife and marry within the customary period before your full coronation. An Oba does not rule alone." Likan's eyes widened in dismay. "Marriage? Now? But I am not ready." Another chief leaned forward. "This is the law, my prince. It is not a matter of feeling, but of foundation. You are educated, but our lineage requires a queen beside you to maintain balance. The kingdom awaits its new ruling couple." Likan looked to his mother, but even she nodded resignedly. "It is the way, Likan. The path has chosen you." Chief Ola, who sat amongst the council members, listened intently to the decree. His eyes, usually heavy with false seriousness, suddenly gleamed with avarice. A queen must be chosen? And Likan had not yet met any suitable candidates? Ola's mind raced. If he could position one of his daughters, Neka or Ife, as the next Iyaba, his status would skyrocket. He would become the queen's father, the most powerful chief in Ikwe. The opportunity was too immense to miss. He left the council meeting swiftly, his heart pounding with ambition. As soon as he reached his compound, he called out loudly, "Neka! Ife! Your father has brought great news. The prince is searching for his queen, and he will visit us. You must prepare. You must look like goddesses. Our lives are about to change forever." Unseen and unheard, Iyade was heating water over a meager fire, preparing to wash their cooking pots. The excitement and scheming of Chief Ola and his family surged around her like a sudden, menacing tide. They were preparing for a prince, plotting for a crown, entirely unaware that the key to their entire scheme was the tired, silent girl they treated like dirt. Omo Oba Likan had reluctantly accepted the invitation from Chief Ola. Though still grieving his father and internally battling the demand for marriage, he knew he had to understand the powerful figures in the kingdom he was now bound to lead. That evening, his royal vehicle and a small security detail pulled up to Chief Ola's compound. Ola had spent the entire day ensuring the place looked the ideal mix of respectable wealth and rustic humility. His wife, Iyade, and his two daughters, Neka and Ife, stood ready under a large mango tree, their best traditional attire immaculate, their faces set in expressions of serene, almost artificial politeness. "Welcome, my prince. You honor my humble dwelling this evening," Chief Ola boomed, bowing low, his voice dripping with syrupy sweetness. Iyade offered a small, graceful curtsy, and Neka and Ife stepped forward, offering a calabash of fresh palm wine and kola nuts on a silver tray. They spoke softly, emphasizing their knowledge of traditional customs and their deep respect for the late Oba Ade. Likan settled onto the prepared seat, receiving their elaborate attention with a faint, polite smile that never reached his eyes. Being highly educated and used to the honest, direct dealings of the world abroad, he instantly sensed the sheer artificiality of the display. Neka and Ife were beautiful, yes, but their charm felt calculated, their gestures over-rehearsed. When they spoke of Ikwe's great destiny, their eyes darted quickly, betraying not patriotism, but a keen interest in the gold embroidery on his royal tunic. They wanted the throne, the status, the power, not the man sitting on the chair. Likan felt a growing sense of weariness. He was not a person to them, merely a vessel for their family's ambitions. He began to fear the whole search for a queen would be an endless parade of self-interest. The strained reception was momentarily interrupted. The compound gate creaked open, and Iyade entered. She walked with slow, careful steps, balancing a heavy, brimming bucket of water on her head. Her simple cotton wrapper was faded, and her body, though young, bore the exhausted posture of constant labor. Her face was composed, masking the weariness, but as her eyes registered the presence of the prince and the royal guards, a fleeting shadow of fear crossed them. She immediately dropped her gaze to the ground. "Good evening, Your Highness," she murmured, giving a swift, low bow without letting the bucket slip. Chief Ola's smooth facade instantly cracked. Yes, go inside," he snapped, his voice sharp and cold. "Move quickly. Do not stand here." Aya obeyed it and added a furious, silent glare. Likan, mid-sentence, paused and watched the interaction. He was struck by the dramatic contrast, the meticulously polished cousins versus the girl who looked like she carried the weight of the world, and the difference in tone used by the chief, the honeyed words for him, the cruel dismissiveness for her. A subtle, sharp feeling of injustice registered in Likan's mind. He noticed the fear in Iyade's quick retreat, the sadness hidden behind her slight, obligatory smile. Over the next few days, Likan's worry about Iyade was overshadowed by the political exhaustion the chiefs inflicted upon him. Every morning brought a new basket of fruit from a chief's daughter, every afternoon a protocol visit from an eager family trying to position their child as the ideal Iyaba. The pressure was relentless and the falseness of the candidates was overwhelming. He grew tired of their calculated attempts at flirtation, their rehearsed knowledge of royal history, and their barely concealed ambition. Late one evening, Likan could bear it no longer. He needed quiet, he needed air, and most importantly, he needed to think clearly, away from the palace's suffocating gold walls. He quietly left the palace, slipping into his car and driving alone, the cool night breeze on his face a welcome relief. He drove aimlessly, letting the dusty village roads lead him away from the lights of Ikwe's center. He eventually reached the peaceful Odoeo stream, a quiet lifeline of the village. And there, under the soft glow of the moonlight, he saw her. Iyade. She was standing by the water's edge, filling her large bucket. Her movements were slow, almost meditative, and the exhaustion was clearer now without the harsh light of day. Likan stopped his car but remained inside, watching. Then, a moment unfolded that solidified the subtle curiosity he felt into something profound. A woman, heavily pregnant and carrying a child strapped to her back, approached the water. She struggled painfully to lift her heavy water pot onto her head. Iyade saw the struggle instantly. She dropped her own newly filled bucket, which splashed water onto the earth, and rushed to the woman. "Ma, let me help you," Iyade's voice, though too far for Likan to hear clearly, seemed gentle and calm. With quiet strength, she carefully lifted the heavily laden pot and settled it securely on the pregnant woman's head. The woman smiled in profound gratitude, thanking her deeply, but Iyade simply bowed her head slightly, offering her faint, gentle smile before returning to refill her own lost water. She refused any reward, any recognition. Likan felt a powerful jolt. This was genuine, raw, uncalculated kindness. A spontaneous act of service that cost her time and effort, observed by no one but him. It was the purest virtue, the one quality he had searched for among the glitter and found only in the dusty shadow of the stream. Likan gripped his steering wheel, deeply moved. He whispered to the quiet night air, "Who is this girl, Iyade? Why does she hide such profound suffering beneath such unshakable kindness? Why is she serving others when she is clearly the one in deepest need?" The question was an awakening. The prince's search for a queen had just changed direction. He knew, with absolute certainty, that he must talk to her, he must understand her story. The very next day, Omo Oba Likan drove back to the stream, his heart filled with a focused purpose he hadn't felt since returning to Ikwe. He found Iyade near their usual spot, and as soon as she saw the familiar royal car, she froze, startled. She dropped her water vessel and quickly began to kneel, lowering her head almost to the dust. Likan rushed to her, extending his hand. "No, Iyade, please don't," he said gently, his voice soft yet firm. "There is no need for such formality when we speak. My name is Likan. Please, just stand. Iyade stood slowly, her eyes wide with shyness and confusion, and used to such simple human respect. Likan noticed that her answers to his probing questions about her life at Chief Ola's compound were vague and protective. She spoke of work and routine, never malice. Likan knew she was shielding herself, and perhaps shielding the honor of her guardian's house, even though that house offered her none. He knew he needed to earn her trust to break her silence. Over the course of several more secret meetings, Likan slowly succeeded in chipping away at the walls Iyade had built around her pain. As they sat under a shady irako tree far from the village path, Iyade finally allowed herself to speak the truth. Her voice was barely a whisper as she recounted the tragic loss of her mother during childbirth and the subsequent lonely years raised by her hard-working father, who eventually succumbed to grief and exhaustion near his farm tools. After he passed, Chief Ola took the land, and then he took me, she murmured, looking down at her rough hands. At first, there was kindness, but soon, everything changed. Now, I am just the one who fetches, cleans, and receives the shouts. They treat me like I am nothing. Iyade carefully avoided detailing the physical abuse, focusing instead on the emotional servitude. Likan listened, his own heart clenching with a shock that swiftly turned to righteous anger and profound sympathy. It confirmed everything he had instinctively felt during his brief visit to Ola's house. No one, let alone a girl of such gentle spirit, deserved to carry such a heavy burden of silent servitude. Likan began to leave the palace even more frequently, using the excuse of needing air or inspecting the farmlands. The truth was, his simple meetings with Iyade had become the only genuine, peaceful moments in his complicated life. He admired her quiet strength, her unpretentious wisdom, and the inherent goodness that shone through her tired eyes. Iyade, for her part, blossomed in his presence. Likan was the first person in years who truly saw her, who spoke to her without an order, and who treated her with genuine respect. His presence made her feel safe, valued, and surprisingly, happy. Their friendship deepened quickly, blossoming into an undeniable, unspoken affection. One afternoon, as they walked side by side along the quiet riverbank, Likan could hold back no longer. He realized his feelings were utterly genuine, entirely detached from the pressures of the throne. He stopped and turned to face her. Iyade, he began, his voice calm but filled with emotion, I think about you every day. I see the woman you truly are. I have feelings for you, strong feelings. Iyade froze, her lips parting in a mixture of fear and shock. Your Highness. She stammered, unsure if she dared to breathe. Then, to Likan's astonishment, tears welled in her eyes, tears not of sorrow, but of sudden, overwhelming relief and joy. Sir, I have been feeling the same, she whispered, quickly looking away. I did not dare to say it. I was so afraid. Likan smiled, a genuine, radiant smile, and in that moment, their unspoken relationship moved from a deep friendship to the fragile, beautiful beginning of love. That night, Likan returned to the palace, his heart lighter than it had been since his father's death. He sought out Iyaba Adishala. Mother, he announced, I want to tell you something. I have found someone. He described Iyade's character, her resilience, her kindness, and the genuine peace he found in her presence. He spoke of her virtues but carefully omitted her name or current status. The Queen Mother, seeing the sincere joy in her son's eyes, a joy she hadn't witnessed since he was a boy, was deeply moved. She smiled, fully and warmly. My son, she said softly, if she makes your heart calm, if she is the one who gives you peace and strength for the trials ahead, then she is the right one. Trust your heart, Likan. Her approval removed the final doubt from his mind. He lay on his bed that night, resolved, tomorrow, he would find Iyade and make her his official queen. However, fate had already taken a cruel turn. Earlier that same afternoon, Ife, Chief Ola's younger daughter, had taken a shortcut near the irako tree to visit a friend. Concealed by the tall grass, she froze when she saw Likan and Iyade. She watched, seething, as Likan reached out and gently pulled the orphan girl into a warm, genuine embrace. The image, the crown prince showing deep affection for the girl Ife treated like dirt, consumed her with a burning, vicious jealousy. Ife rushed home, bursting through the door, yelling, "Papa! Mama! The beggar! The orphan is trying to steal our future." Chief Ola and Iyade listened, their faces twisting in fury as the pieces clicked together. The iron bolt slammed shut with a horrifying clang. Chief Ola and Iyade stood outside the door of the old storeroom, their faces grimly satisfied with their cruelty. Inside, the darkness was absolute, the air thick with the smell of dust and forgotten things. Iyade huddled on the cold, earthen floor, the shock of betrayal slowly giving way to terror. Tears streamed down her face as the full reality of her uncle's malice sank in. Her hope, nurtured by Likan's kindness, was being extinguished by their vicious jealousy. She buried her face in her hands, her body shaking, but amidst the despair, a familiar strength returned. She stopped crying and began to whisper prayers, not for rescue, but for the endurance to survive the darkness, clinging to the memory of Likan's gentle smile. Unaware of the darkness that had consumed Iyade, Oba Likan woke the next morning with a sense of clarity he hadn't known in months. Today was the day. He was determined to tell Iyade he wanted her to be his Iyaba, his queen. He drove straight to their secret meeting spot under the Irako tree. He waited patiently, watching the sun climb higher, but Iyade did not appear. An hour passed, then another. Worry quickly turned to alarm. Iyade was never late. She was always cautious and punctual. A tight knot of dread formed in his stomach. He sped immediately to Chief Ola's compound, his car tires kicking up dust in his haste. Chief Ola, Iyade, Neka, and Ife rushed out, their faces contorted into masks of feigned concern and sympathy. "My prince. What brings you here so early?" Ola asked, bowing too enthusiastically. Likan listened, his eyes studying their faces. Their smiles were too wide, their concern too theatrical, their denial too insistent. He saw the subtle, shifty movement in Ola's eyes and the excessive smoothness of his voice. Likan left, his suspicions confirmed, they were hiding something significant. Over the next 3 days, Likan returned, each time more demanding and forceful. He questioned Ola, he questioned the household servants, but the family maintained their lie. When direct questioning failed, Likan's intuition took over. He realized that to find Iyade, he needed to stop acting like a prince asking favors and start acting like an Oba demanding the truth. He called upon a trusted, loyal palace guard, giving him discreet but specific instructions: find out where Iyade is. Ask the neighbors what they saw the night before last. Look for any sign of her within that compound. Within hours, the guard returned with the truth. The neighbors had seen Chief Ola and his wife carry something heavy to the old storeroom, and the family had been unusually quiet ever since. Iyade was locked up. Likan's fury was a cold, sharp blade. He did not hesitate. He drove back to Ola's compound, this time not in a sleek civilian car, but in a royal vehicle flanked by 2 official palace security cars. He stormed into the compound with his guards. Chief Ola rushed out, sputtering, "My prince! You cannot enter unannounced." Likan ignored him completely. The storeroom, Likan's voice was dangerously low, carrying the full, terrifying authority of the crown. "Open the storeroom, Ola, or my guards will break down the door." Ola and Iyade turned pale, their carefully constructed lie crumbling around them. Ola fumbled weakly with the key. The door swung inward, revealing the dark, confined space. Likan stepped inside and saw her, Iyade, weak from hunger and fear, but when she looked up and saw his face, a fragile smile of pure relief broke through her despair. Likan did not speak another word to her captors. He gently lifted Iyade, still wearing her simple, worn clothes, and carried her directly out of the filth and darkness and into the royal car, leaving the terrified, defeated Ola family standing speechless in the dust, Likan drove Iyade straight back to the palace. He did not take her to his personal quarters first. Instead, he led her, still in her humble state, into the Grand Royal Council Hall, where Iyaba Adishala and the assembled chiefs were waiting for an update on his queen's search. The hall fell into a stunned, absolute silence. Likan stood before the council, Iyade slightly behind him, holding herself with a quiet dignity that surpassed the regal attire of everyone present. "Elders of Ikwe," Likan declared, his voice ringing with conviction, "I was commanded to choose a queen." The chiefs presented their daughters, women trained in grace, wealth, and ambition. They were all beautiful, but their hearts were empty. He looked directly at the stunned face of Chief Ola, who was present. "But I have chosen the woman whose heart is pure, whose strength is forged in suffering, and whose kindness is given freely, not for gold or status. I present to you Iyade, the victim of deceit, the survivor of cruelty, and the true future Iyaba of Ikwe." He praised her resilience, her gentle spirit, and contrasted it sharply with the greed and treachery he had witnessed in the homes of the powerful. Iyaba Adishala, who had seen her son return from abroad detached and cold, now saw him standing tall, filled with purpose and true love. Moved by his powerful conviction and Iyade's undeniable, gentle dignity, she stepped forward and placed her hand on Iyade's shoulder, granting her full support and blessing. Likan then turned to Chief Ola, his voice taking on the full, terrifying weight of the Oba-elect. He announced the immediate removal of Chief Ola from the council, his assets frozen, and his family punished for their abuse of an orphan and for deceiving the crown. Justice was swift and merciless. The story of the prince who chose the orphan spread like wildfire throughout Ikwe, affirming that the new Oba valued character over status. The wedding took place shortly thereafter. Omo Oba Likan finally assumed the throne, no longer weighed down by duty, but uplifted by genuine love. He ruled with Iyaba Iyade by his side, proving that the heart of Ikwe found its truest queen not in wealth or beauty, but in hidden kindness and strength, finally giving the silent orphan the peace and honor she deserved.